Hey everyone, it's Dylan with Nightmare Audio Reviews. Back with a new video today. I will say I took some feedback. So, I'm talking loudly today, and it's also daytime, so I will not be whispering. Hopefully, my mic sounds fine and the volume's not too low. Second, I am now officially wearing a metal shirt. I had to choose Moon Sorrow since they're one of my favorite bands of all time. So I'll probably just try to go through my shirt, whatever I have in my drawer, my shirt collection at some point. And then lastly, I had to look a little bit more scraggly today. Actually, that's not true. I just got off a pretty heavy 2 week inpatient block where I was pretty much working from 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. for like 2 weeks straight. So, but it kind of fits. So you know what? Let's just go with it. Anyway, today I want to talk about the relatively new final DX4000. Of course, it's going to be flipped because I have my camera inverted, but that is fine. And then I will also do another aside saying I really hope that the flickering that's going on with my webcam is not too bad this time. But I think I'm going to get a new webcam soon that will have one better, clearer image, better lighting, and then hopefully it won't do that flickering thing because that gets really old really fast. Anyway, let me bring up. I'll go through kind of what I normally do. So this is Final's website reviewing their DX4000CL. Really, it's very similar to the DX3000CL in terms of the build. There's just like a very slight handful of differences. But basically, they have 30 millimeter thick ear pads. You can see, I think it looks quite nice, especially with some of the photos. They use this Japanese paper carbon composite diaphragm. They basically say that they use a special, I believe it's washi paper, and you can see the diaphragm there. That is, to my perspective, that's pretty cool. I do like when there are some like unique, novel driver types and materials. You can see that it comes with this silver cable, which I'll talk about. They talk about the fact that they use like this special rear diffuser array structure, limiting reflections. I assume that means limiting peaks and kind of weird trebly weirdness. That is definitely the appropriate technical term. You can see a little bit more of a photo here. It kind of shows some of the textured finish of the housing. And then they say it's repairable, which I'm all for, because if you buy a product, especially an expensive audio product or any expensive product in general, for it to last and have some repairability is nice and kind of adds value to it. And then they basically say the earpads don't really low repulsion. I assume that means that they don't bounce back and they kind of match to your contours of your face. And then the silver cable they include, which admittedly it is a nice cable, but I'll talk about that. Textured finish that resists sebum and fingerprints, just in case you for some reason were wiping your nose and then immediately touched your headphones, or touched your ears and then touched your headphones, or anything that's a little bit oily on you. And then they include their 4.4 millimeter balanced to 6.3 adapter, which I really like too. But this is, again, the final website. Bloom Audio basically has the same things. Let me just see, because I like when they actually give the specifics. So for overview, it's 37 ohms. It's a 96 decibel per milliwatt sensitivity. And I don't think I'm going to get anything newer from the Audio 46 website. It's pretty much the same thing, pulling from the final audio website, so I won't really beat that too much, but they do specify here that it's about 375 grams. So overall, they're both really comfortable headphones, both the DX3000CL and the DX4000CL. I purchased this from Audio 46 as soon as they had posted on their Instagram that it was actually in stock. It does cost under $1,000, so it's $999 USD retail. Bloom Audio, they have had it on their website for quite a while, but it's still listed as the pre-order button. I don't know if that's true. They actually might have it in stock. I've heard that, with all the tariffs and headaches there, that some things got delayed, and that some shipments were like still being held, and then they had to go back to Japan, something, something, something. What's interesting to me, this is kind of another random aside, is that I'll leave it here. So there's at least a photo. Apparently these are actually, it says so on the headphones, but they're made in Japan. A lot of final audio products, they said in their lower end range, they'll actually kind of outsource to China. But they said with this, because of how difficult the engineering was and how they really need everything to be very like tightly regulated for fitting and materials, that they actually made this in their Japan facility, which is kind of cool. I like that. But honestly, anywhere you get products nowadays, it's good. But when you kind of get the extra special, it's just not solely made in China, and you have like kind of, it's made in Romania or it's made in Japan. I like that. It's I don't know. Or in Sennheiser's case, made in Germany versus Ireland. But now everything I think is in Ireland for the most part. That's a random aside. But anywho, so that was kind of the overview. Let me kind of click over back to here. So that was, again, general. I'm saying this to remind myself, because honestly my brain is not functioning too much due to like sleep deprivation right now. What comes in it? So comes in the white box that I had in my unboxing video. It's really just bare bones. There is nothing more than a white box, a cardboard box inside, the headphones in there, the cable's in there, the cable's in a little pouch, and then you have the adapter in the pouch. I thought that it came with a case in the DX4000CL, and I thought that, that $300 difference between the 3000CL and the 4000CL, maybe there was a case involved. There was no case, which I was very sad to see. And I think I heard that, was it Kurlong's video? Someone reviewed it and they're like, oh yeah, the 4000 is going to have a case. It does not. So if you were opening the box thinking you were going to get a nice case with your $1,000 headphone, you are going to be sorely disappointed. What it comes with is this. You have the headphone, and then you get your very nice silver cable, like really high quality adapters. Everything's metal. You can see, I like the fact that it has kind of the plastic covering, and then you have the silver through. But I will not lie, I have not used it. I've actually been using my, if I can pull it up here, my Mazda Audio cable. Reason for that is it's way more pliable, it's comfortable, it's a little bit longer, and it's just not. This is the final audio cable is a little bit like stiff. And I'm at the point where I just want something to kind of like flow with me if I'm sitting at my desk. So that's that. It comes with the same, as I said, 4.4 to 6.3 or 1/4 inch adapter, which is nice. And that's basically it. It's a headphone in that. So for build, I think it's built quite well. What's nice about this, and I don't know if you can catch all the nuance again, because my webcam can only do so much, but if I kind of flicker the light back and forth, you can see that it has that textured pattern. And then also, again, it's all black, so it's hard to see, and my webcam is flickering. A great combination of everything, but you can kind of see the textured finish. It has also these black gimbals. The headphone cups can basically slide up and down. It rotates completely fully. Ooh, if it rotates completely fully, don't drop the headphones. That would be an expensive mistake. Really contours nicely to your head. The ear pads are very plush. And headband is nice and padded. I believe it's all pleather. Pleather ear pads, pleather headband. Plastic, kind of resin, ear cups, metal gimbals, and that's basically it. And I'll do a side by side at the end. I have my 3000 CL off screen right now. In terms of what it looks like on you, this is how it's gonna look if I can fit it back to my head. So you can just easily pop it on your head, and then it basically is on. You can kind of like angle it down or up if needed. It's big, it's chunky, you look like you're basically Princess Leia. But I have to say, offers really good passive noise isolation, lowers it down by a few dB. I don't really have too thick of a rim of glasses, but it's not putting any pressure on my temples. It's nice and comfortable. It will, I imagine, meld and kind of press nicely in against more thick glasses. Of course, there's always a risk that you lose a little bit of the bass response when you do have a breaking that seal. But I love these. They're comfortable. Like, I can look down if I'm reading. They stay on. I think they honestly look quite good. I can now hear myself better. For maybe a few gripes with the build, and I had this overall, I assume there's a reason for using pleather materials. I don't really like pleather as much as just natural leather. More sustainable, most likely, something about that. But it if you have oily ears such as myself, or if you sweat or have moisturizer, which is all three of me, it's going to basically just like absorb and just have this sheen on it the entire time. I won't be able to capture it, but the inner liner of it is also some. I don't really know what the material it is. It's. I don't even know how to describe it. It seems like a synthetic, thin kind of like nylon-y material, but it just absorbs your oils. I don't think there's a way to honestly clean it. And I'm not someone who's going to be pulling apart the ear pads unless I know for sure there's going to be replacements. So I'm just kind of leaving it as be, but you'll see over time, and I won't be able to capture this because there's no way the lighting's going to hit it. But just trust me if I say that when your ears touch the inside of it, if you have that sweat build up over time, or if your ears are a little bit more oily, it's just going to start kind of like saturating it, which is kind of gross, but like is what it is. And that's that. Between the 4000 and the 3000, I like the 4000 more in terms of overall build. I like the fact that it's black on black, so you know it's much more metal, because everyone likes black metal, and it's black metal. And I like the fact that the resin, because it's textured, means it actually does not hold any fingerprints. The fact that they say that it doesn't it's sebum and fingerprint resistant, that's actually very accurate, which I like a lot, because the 3000 just fingerprint magnet, if you look at it wrong, it will smear and smudge, and it's actually hard to remove. I've used a microfiber cloth. You can get rid of it too, but it does take a little bit of elbow grease for that to happen, and I guess you can in theory use like an alcohol wipe if needed to kind of clean it off, but you're always at risk for alcohol kind of messing with the materials. And that's kind of the overview of the build. I don't have much else to say. It's pretty much like the 3000. Just add some black and add some fingerprint resistance, and then add a higher end cable. Alright, so that was overview. That was build. I kind of went into comfort, and I kind of went into the items that it comes with. Again, I'm just trying to keep myself organized here. Sound. So, I think the best way to do this review is really to start contrasting it, but I'll focus on this as itself. So, this is a warm neutral headphone. It has just a slightly elevated bass response. The bass to my ears is nice and punchy. It has a decently good sub bass response. I wouldn't really call this a bass head headphone per se, but it's warm. You really hear the bass when it's supposed to be there. It doesn't keep it lingering. It doesn't add a little bit more than it should to the song. It just kind of gives you a little bit more oomph when it's supposed to be present, which if you like that, then that's nice. The mid-range for guitars and vocals is forward, and then the treble overall is present. It's detailed, but it's not harsh or abrasive whatsoever. It does roll off, so this is another headphone where you can crank it if you are treble sensitive, and you won't have your ears bleed, and you'll be pretty comfortable overall. Again, I don't recommend cranking up the volume, but this is something where if you're treble sensitive, it's quite nice. One thing I'll touch upon. So my source is a MacBook Pro. I think I wrote it in my overview for some of my previous videos, just so people know what I'm listening out of. It's running to a Questyle CMA 12. That's my DAC amplifier that I bought prior to medical school. And all my sources are FLAC converted to Apple lossless, and I'm running it through Swinsian, which is an Apple music player application, or it's running through Audirvana, which again is another audio application. I don't really hear difference. Audirvana says it will lock it and really kind of let the DAC and focus the computer on like just audio output. That's all beyond my understanding. Whereas Audirvana is just like an iTunes, but better because it's like the old iTunes when it was good before Apple Music made it very bloated. For other details about sound, so one thing I will also admittedly say is I don't do frequency sweeps for any of my reviews because I'm not really someone, or the goal of my review is to not be technical, like technical. You can watch people do that. I will pull up frequency responses going forward just so people can kind of see, because I think it helps visualize like the sound to explain it, because everything is obviously subjective and having a little bit of objectivity is nice. But I don't do frequency sweeps because that's not how I review and listen. I just honestly put on the headphones, I listen to tracks I like, and I try to see what makes me feel good and fuzzy inside. That's really how I do it. Um, I don't also really pay attention to soundstage in truth. That's something that I'll also admit I really won't touch upon going forward, just because when I'm listening to the songs, I don't believe soundstage is really a focus. If I were listening to like orchestral music or classical or something where they're trying to give you a sense of space, then I would pay more attention to that. But it's not really a big focus of how I listen to music, so I personally don't care. And detail, it's kind of hard to say. I can if something's well enough recorded that the detail and the focus, and like if you can hear someone's like finger slide along guitar strings, or you can hear someone kind of like inhale and take a breath, that's cool to have, but it's also really limited in metal, so I personally don't really pay attention to that when I'm listening. I can tell if something seems a little bit more like muffled and off, and if that's bothersome I would say so. um, but yeah, that's just kind of a thought. So, giving some more context. So, the bass, as I said, it doesn't have like the fun factor of the 3000. And I'll kind of start comparing just in a moment. But I think if you looked at this as itself and you were aiming for a closeback that is under $1,000, that will be comfortable, that kind of offers a different like I don't know, flavor, I'd say this is not a bad purchase. This is definitely for someone who likes a little bit of like warmth and bass to their headphones, and they don't really care for like super heavy bass signature, or they're not someone who just like wants a very anemic and bass light sound signature. It's just kind of like a very good warm neutral headphone. This is for someone who probably will not want things being added to the sound. I don't want to use the word like as the artist intended, but it's decently accurate for what you're hearing, and it doesn't really add its own kind of coloration to it. Some people could say they're up their alley and that's fun for them. Others might say like, oh, and I want something like, that adds a little bit more fun factor to it. So I would not call these necessarily fun headphones, but I would still say they're extremely good headphones, especially if you're looking for a closed back headphone under $1,000. And I'm probably going in circles here. Um, Mid-range to me, when I'm listening to the songs, I do hear the guitars are more forward than male vocals. It could be due to mixing, and also in front of female vocals. I was running it through a lot of my test tracks. For some reason, I've been more of a kick of like psychedelic, like rock, doom metal. I was listening to Blood Ceremony and going through the discography recently, and the guitars are nice and forward, and the female vocalist is just like a little bit in the background, which is my preference when I listen to music because I focus more on the guitars and kind of the melody than I do male vocals in truth. When I'm listening to Monomarth, and as I've said before, With Odin on Our Side is one of my go-to albums to listen to. One, because I absolutely know the songs quite well, and two, because it's very well recorded, and three, you could probably say it's the best Monomarth album. The way it sounds, it gives a nice sense of weight, but it's not like that super meaty, bassy, heavy character that I had kind of alluded to that I like nowadays. But the vocals are they're there. Guitars are nice and forward, and I'm not getting any sharpness or abrasiveness in the treble, which is good. Detail, I would say these sound more detailed to me than some other closebacks, where you have nice treble presence. You really hear what you're supposed to hear in the upper frequencies, but it's not being overdone and it's not sharp. And that's where I'm just now going to just go into the comparison, because I'm kind of like waffling between the 3000 and this 4000. So, all right. So these are the DX3000s. As you can see, they're inverted again. So you'd have to flip the screen. If you look at the design, you can see one is metal and one is black, like silver metal and black. These are wobbly, so they're going to fall off. But you can also see, kind of by the light hitting it, this is like a very, very, very matte finish. And this has the textured material. This one's nice and clean because I wiped it down. But if I accidentally touch the pad, I will probably have tons and tons of fingerprints on it. But basically, this is the 3000. So I'm just going to kind of have these raised up and I'll tell you what's what. So 4000, 3000. All right, good. For the 3000, this is, if you were looking for a fun, like if you're saying, okay, these two headphones pique my interest, which one should I go for? I have an answer for you. If for the 3000, you are someone who likes more bass, you want a fun headphone, you don't care about neutrality, you don't care as like if the artist intended it to sound a certain way, that's what you're going to get. You're someone who's just like, I want the headphone to have some character, I like fun, maybe I want to save some money too. I would say 3000's a better preference. And if you actually put like a gun to my head and said which one would you keep, I would keep the 3000 over the 4000. I just wish you could add some fingerprint resistance to the 3000. That would be cool. This to me is more fun. This, as I said in my previous video, has a lot of meat and weight to it, where when I was listening to Monomarth, every single song has extra sense of like weight and heaviness to the guitars, which really just made it sound fun. The sub bass is really nice and present. It's really, really punchy and dynamic. So it just sounds great for metal. The mid range is forward. You really hear the guitars in your face. The male vocals are present. They have strength. They really sound nice, nice and deep. They're also forward, but again, I always kind of say that to my ears, they sound a little bit behind where the guitars are, which is my preference. And then in terms of treble response, these are darker to me than the 4000 are. So if you're someone who's very treble sensitive, and you don't care about soundstage, you don't really care about detail, you just want something fun and punchy and heavy, these are my choice. And I would say these, between the two, this is my choice for metal, the 3000. It just has much more fun. This is great for all genres. If there's a genre that has a lot more bass focus, maybe that would be like, I guess, death. And maybe if there's like stoner or I guess drone. I don't listen to drone metal, but I know they really focus on like the bass and kind of the vibrations. This would be a good choice. All right, so I'm going to plop that there. For the 4000, who would this be for between the two? This would be for someone who says they want more neutrality. They don't really like bass being overblown, but they still like bass being present. The bass here is punchy. It's dynamic. It's not nearly as punchy or dynamic to my ears as the 3000. So when I was listening to Monomarth, I'm hearing bass hits with the double bass. It just doesn't have that same weight and fun factor. It just sounds like it's a little bit more amplified, but it's still within like reason, and it still kind of sounds as if that's how they mastered it and recorded it. Um, the I think because the bass is a little bit drawn back, the mid range stands out like a touch. I'm saying like a touch. Like if you put them side by side, it's really hard to kind of tell. But the treble is more prominent and the detail is more prominent because the bass is taken back overall to my ears. So if this headphone would be for someone who potentially listens to like a wider range of genres outside of metal too, but someone who potentially just likes more neutrality, that would be my recommendation. Again, equivalent in terms of build, equivalent in terms of weight. You get, I will say, objectively, like not as nice of a cable as the 3000. Sorry, you get a nicer cable in the 4000 than the 3000. But I don't really necessarily think cables matter. It's just more of like what you care. And I just go for cables that are comfortable and that are nice feeling. And I don't necessarily think that copper versus silver makes a difference. But you are most likely paying for the cable with that price increase from the DX3000CL to the DX4000CL. Comparison of this to the Meze Strada. The Meze Strada has much more bass punch and more sub bass. The Meze Strada's mid range is drawn back a good amount, so guitars and male vocals sound further back than this. And the treble in Meze Strada is much more peaky, and it's still not bright, like, but it has a little bit more kind of like, as I said, like you can tell it's detailed. Between the two, I prefer the DX4000. But if you're looking for something that was more portable and that honestly has like a different overall vibe and look, I would tip my hat to the Strada. And that's kind of it. So, what else? That's kind of it, honestly. This was more of a rambly one, so we'll see how that goes in terms of timing. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. I think really they're both excellent headphones. I definitely am going for more fun, so I will definitely be listening to the 3000 more. I'd love to see what Final Audio does with their DX series. I wonder if maybe would they make a 2000, a 5000. I know they have the DX10000, which is like $8,000. That's a hard pass because I don't think it's going to sound $8,000 good. Which actually reminds me, as I say this, I was at Bloom Audio. I don't remember if I mentioned this in my last video. If I did, I'm so sorry. I'm really good at starting a conversation and being like, "Oh, hey, can I tell you about this thing?" And as soon as I like finish my thought, someone's like, "Oh yeah, you told me." And I was just like, "Oh shoot, I did tell you." But I listened to the Audio-Technica, whatever their anniversary amp is with like the fancy wood. It's good that I'm referencing this without actually knowing the model number of anything I listen to. But I just know it costs $118,000 for I believe the amp itself, and add another like $8,000 to the headphone, and it didn't sound that good. So price doesn't mean everything. So even if the $10,000, even if the DX10000 is like $10,000, yeah, it's $8,000. But even if it was $10,000, you might just be happy with the 3000 because you like bass. And I hear that one had wonky sound signature and tuning, but like I haven't listened to it, so I can't really say. I could have cut all that last train of thought, but I'm going to leave it in because this just shows what happens when you're sleep deprived for 2 weeks. You just look a little more like scraggly and you wear a metal shirt. It sounds wonderful. Alright guys, let me know your thoughts and comments. Has anyone listened to either? Has this piqued our interest for one more than another? Are my ears good? Do you agree? But it would be fun to do a side by side. I do have to say. These are headphones where you put them side by side and you're like, oh yeah, I can actually hear the difference. And it's pretty cool. Alright, take care. Thanks for tuning in.